Today marks World Mental Health Day. There's still much stigma associated with mental health. This day seeks to raise awareness about mental issues. According to the World Health Organization, mental health issues are becoming common across the globe. It's estimated that 1 out of every 4 people around the world suffers from mental disorders, while around 800,000 others commit suicide each year as a result of the mental disorders. Mental Health Day is observed every 10th of October. The theme this year focuses on suicide prevention. Well, to further analyze issues of mental health, we are now joined by Dr. Catherine Syengo Mutisya, a consultant psychiatrist at the Nairobi Mental Health Services, along with Eugene Mwari, a journalist and mental health activist, are joining us here today. Thank you so much to you both for joining us. Doctor, I'm going to start with you, with the focus being suicide prevention this year, and that is the theme for this year. What is the situation on the African continent, and particularly here in Kenya?
We know that 79% of all suicide occur in the low and middle income countries, and so the rates in Africa are quite high, and we know that it's still a stigma. The stigma in Africa is still very high, and so we expect that suicide rates are more than what is reported, because we know in Kenya it's still a crime, that if you attempt suicide, it's a criminal offense and you can be arrested for it. So many people don't talk about it. Again, culturally, it's still seen as a taboo. So you find that loved ones who lose people to suicide, or who are family members who have attempted suicide, will not want to talk about it. So we are far much higher rates, because we know for every suicidal attempt, at least 20 to 25 more have attempted suicide. Yes.
Those are pretty high numbers. Eugene, I'm going to bring you in because you feel very strongly about this. You speak a lot about it very, very openly. What is your experience with this been, and what would you like to see in terms of what Doctor is speaking about when it comes to that stigma?
First of all, unfortunately, I was thrown into this whole cause by my own personal issue. A while back, I was diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety. Since then, I went fully into the cause, along with getting my own help, of course. And the rates of suicides were unignorable, like in this country. It was just too much. So I started my own support group. Where would I start? On my own contact list, or the people I know, people I haven't spoken to in over a year. That's how it grew, and over the years, it grew to a number that I can't barely handle today. So many organizations joined in, and we've been helping people. You know, I've been using my own number for a while as an emergency suicide hotline, which we get people, get them to get help, and we see where we can sort maybe the first few sessions, because it's no secret, getting help, medication for any mental health issues is not cheap. So it's an issue that's it's very prevalent in Kenya, and we cannot ignore it anymore. The worst part is depression. Such issues don't have a face. You can't tell who it is by just looking at them. The best you can do is identify symptoms. And where does it start? Talk to somebody. Reach out to someone. Because we know the numbers. We know the statistics. We know who places what in, who ranks where Kenya ranks, where the world ranks in the number of suicides. But what are we doing about it? We need to humanize the issue. Because in the end, where you felt judged as a person, choose acceptance. When you felt rejected, choose compassion. Where you felt ashamed, we all know better. We need to be better as humans, because we know the numbers. But what are we doing about it?
Doctor, I'm going to come to you because on the back of what Eugene is saying, we're seeing not just in Kenya, not just on the African continent, worldwide, the numbers are increasing. You're talking about knowing the stats, the numbers are going up. Why do you think that is?
Obviously, there are various causes of which would make somebody think of ending their life. And we know that 90% depression and other mental health problems. And we know also lack of social support, where somebody feels they can open up to somebody who can give them support, also can contribute to higher rates. But overall, we encourage that we all can help one another. And that's why the theme of this year is take at least 40 seconds to try and listen to somebody who might be not feeling well, find out how they are feeling. Take at least 40 seconds, and we thank this TV because you've taken some time to talk about suicide prevention and mental health. and we are all in it together, and we can prevent suicide, because suicide is 100% preventable. Yes.
Well, Eugene, when you hear that suicide is 100% preventable, and yet we have these high numbers, where do you think the disconnect is from people hearing, well, you can come out and you can speak about what's going on with you, but not enough people are, because we still have these high suicide numbers?
When you go online today, the first hashtag you'll see, as Doctor has said, is 40 seconds of action. Why? Because according to the World Health Organization, is every 40 seconds a person commits suicide. Think about that. And out of 20 people, out of that one person who commits suicide, who actually takes their own life, 20 other people already tried and failed. In countries in the West, it's comfortable. It's easy to get help because they've opened to the idea of talking about it. Even in China themselves have recently enacted a mental health law, which actually helps people. In Africa, we are yet to come to the idea of even accepting it as a notion. The whole idea of having a backward law where you criminalize suicide, how does that help? Of course, it's very hard for even the World Health Organization in Kenya to get any stats, any surveys to be done, because most suicides are not reported for that very reason. So there are basically no statistics. The police in Kenya do not categorize successful suicides as they don't keep records of suicides. In fact, they put them aside as homicides or just murder on its own. So there is no way of getting actual records, which means the numbers may be higher. And looking at that number, this is a fight we're losing. It's a fight we can't afford to ignore anymore. Looking at the budgets for most countries in Africa, in Kenya alone, the national budget, what's allocated to the health sector is 15%. What goes from that 15% into mental health is 0.05%. Barely a drop in the ocean of what can help in a month, because there's no mental health facility, as in a stable one, the one that's there. When you talk to somebody in Africa about mental health, the first thing they jump to is a mental asylum. There's so many conditions, so many schizophrenia, addiction, anxiety, so many issues that people are not aware about. How many campaigns do we have to start and end before we actually reach to somebody on the ground? Because we want to start campaigns, let's get the conversation out there, let's have a talk, let's keep the conversation on mental health awareness going. But nobody's willing to do the dirty work of reaching somebody, which is, again, coming back to the point of a personal responsibility. Mental health is not just some cause. It's a personal responsibility that you, Hannah, Dr. Catherine, should take. And ensuring that the person next to you is okay is something that should weigh you down each and every day.
Thank you so much to you both for joining us for that insight.